They shoved me into a freezing garage like I was nothing, just so my golden brother's pregnant girlfriend could sleep in my bed. That was the day I realized I was never truly part of this family. If you've ever felt like the invisible one in your own family, then maybe you'll understand what I'm about to say. I didn't just feel unwanted, I was treated like I was disposable. And the day they gave my bedroom to my brother's pregnant girlfriend and shoved me into a dusty, freezing garage with a mattress on the floor, something inside me broke. But let me back up, because the rot didn't start with the garage, it started long before that. I'm the middle child. Classic, right? My older brother, Jason, was the golden boy, star athlete, charming smile. Always had a way of weaseling out of trouble. My younger sister, Lily, was the baby fragile, artistic, always crying about something. And then there was me, Evan. I wasn't a troublemaker, but I wasn't a prodigy either. Just average. I learned pretty quickly that being quiet and useful was the best way to survive in my house. But even being quiet and useful wasn't enough. Growing up, Jason could do no wrong. I once caught him sneaking alcohol into the house when we were 16. When I told my mom, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't be jealous of your brother." That was the first time I felt the sting of betrayal, not from Jason, but from my own mother. As the years went on, it became a pattern. Jason wrecked our dad's car. I got yelled at for not stopping him. He failed the semester in college. They blamed the stress I caused by being so distant all the time. And when Lily cried, I was always the one told to be patient with her because she's delicate. Fast forward to last year. Jason had dropped out of college again. This time, he had a new excuse. His girlfriend, Amber, was pregnant. He was 25, jobless, and back in our parents' house. And instead of holding him accountable, my mom practically celebrated. She even said, "This baby might be what finally gets Jason on the right path." I wanted to scream. Amber moved. And 2 months later, she was loud, entitled, and constantly too tired to help around the house. I didn't have a problem with her being pregnant. I had a problem with the way everyone tiptoed around her like she was royalty. And me? I was still living at home, while working at part-time jobs, and saving for college. I didn't complain. I helped with chores. I didn't ask for much. I just wanted to be left alone in my small, barely decorated room, my space, my one little corner of the world. But that didn't last. One evening, I came home after an exhausting double shift. My mom and dad were sitting at the kitchen table. Their faces were serious, like they were about to give me bad news. "Evan," my dad said, folding his hands, "we need to talk about your room." I felt my stomach drop. I already knew where this was going. "We think it would be best if you move into the garage," my mom said gently, like she was doing me a favor. "It's only temporary. Amber needs a more comfortable space. And your room is right next to the bathroom. She'll need it when the baby comes." I blinked. "You want me to live in the garage?" Dad spoke up again. "We'll make it nice. We'll put in a space heater, and you can bring your mattress down there." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You mean the garage where we store paint cans, broken furniture, and rat traps?" "That garage?" Mom's voice hardened. "Amber's carrying your niece or nephew. Show some respect." And just like that, I became the villain in my own house. I tried to fight it. I told them I'd been saving up to move out soon anyway. I said it didn't make sense. Amber and Jason were adults. Why should I sacrifice my space? Their answer: "Because family supports each other. You've always been the responsible one, Evan." Yes, the responsible one. Translation: the one we can walk all over. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I came home from work to find my mattress already dragged into the garage. My posters were torn down. My clothes were stuffed into garbage bags and tossed in a corner. They didn't even wait for me to move out. No heater, no insulation, just for concrete walls and a metal door that moaned every time the wind hit it. I stood there, surrounded by boxes and dust, while my mom told me how cozy it would be once I settled in. I didn't answer her. I just nodded. Something inside me went numb. The worst part, no one, not Jason, not Amber, not even Lily, spoke up for me. Jason acted like it was totally fair. Amber said, "It's not ideal, but pregnancy is hard, Evan. Try to be understanding." And Lily, she just shrugged and said, "Well, it is cold in the house sometimes." The first night in that garage was brutal. It was January. I had blankets and a space heater that barely worked. Every creak of the wind felt like the house itself was laughing at me. And yet, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I waited, because something had started to grow in that cold garage. Not bitterness, at least. Not only bitterness. It was clarity. I saw, for the first time, that this wasn't about temporary space or sacrifice, it was about power. I was the one they could push around because I let them. I had been quiet, accommodating, invisible, and that made me easy to ignore. Well, not anymore. I started making plans. I stopped telling them where I was going after work. I began taking extra shifts, saving every cent I could. I looked at rental listings late at night on my cracked phone, under the thin blankets. I said nothing when Amber complained about Jason playing video games too loud. I kept quiet when my mom asked me to grab some groceries for the house. I nodded and smiled when they asked me how I liked the garage. I became a ghost in their home, but not the kind they could ignore. The kind that was about to vanish completely. And they had no idea what was coming. I don't think any of them noticed the shift in me, not at first. That's the thing about people who take you for granted. They don't pay attention until it's too late. A month passed. February rolled in, colder than ever. The space heater in the garage broke twice. No one offered to replace it. My mom just told me to layer up like I was camping for fun. Meanwhile, Amber's belly grew, and with it, the special treatment. She now had the best room in the house. Jason did nothing. All day he'd quit his part-time job and claimed he was getting ready to be a father. And my dad, he just kept his head down and called it family adjustments. I started sleeping with a hat and gloves on. My breath fogged the air at night. I woke up coughing some mornings, and even though I felt like crap, I still dragged myself to work because I had one goal: get out. The funny thing was, the more invisible I became, the more they relied on me. Groceries. I paid for them. Trash. I took it out. Amber wanted snacks in the middle of the night. Guess who was asked to run to the store? One night, I came home to find Jason sitting on the couch, controller in hand, chips all over the coffee table. My mom looked at me and said, "Can you clean up a bit? Amber's not feeling well." I stared at her, then at Jason, and asked, "What about him?" She blinked like I just asked something absurd. "He's under a lot of pressure right now. Stop being difficult." That night, I slept in my car instead of the garage. I just couldn't take it. I sat behind the wheel in a gas station parking lot, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. And that's when it hit me: I was already gone. I just hadn't made it official. So I did. The very next day, I found a small studio apartment. It was a showbox with peeling paint and a tiny window. But it was warm, quiet, and most importantly mine. I paid the deposit in full. My heart pounded the entire time, but it also felt right, like I was finally choosing me. I didn't tell anyone. Instead, I made a plan. Every day for the next 2 weeks, I slowly moved my things out of the garage, one bag at a time. Clothes, books, essentials. I left behind the things I didn't care about: my old mattress, a cracked lamp, that broken heater. I wanted them to have it all, to sit there, surrounded by the mess they made. On my last night in the garage, I didn't sleep. I just sat there in the dark, thinking about everything. The favoritism, the guilt tripping, the years I'd swallowed, my needs just to keep the peace. No more. I left early the next morning while the house was still asleep. My car was packed. I didn't leave a note. No goodbye. I just disappeared. Freedom tasted like stale coffee and cheap carpet, and I loved every second of it. The silence was unfamiliar at first. No screaming. No footsteps overhead. No fake smiles. Just me. For the first time in my life, I could breathe. Days passed. Then a week. No one called. Not my mom. Not my dad. Not Jason. Not even Lily. And as painful as that was, it was also clarifying. They didn't miss me. Not really. Until they needed something. Exactly 10 days after I vanished, I got my first message. A text from Mom. "Where are you? Jason and Amber need help setting up the crib." I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. The next day. "Evan, this is serious. The baby could come any day now. You're being incredibly selfish." Then Dad chimed in. "I don't know what's gotten into you, son. We're family. You don't just walk away." I didn't reply. And that's when the phone calls started. First once a day, then twice, then nonstop. I blocked every number. By the end of the week, Jason showed up at my job. He cornered me in the parking lot, arms crossed, anger written all over his face. "Seriously, you're just gonna run off? Not even say goodbye?" I kept my voice calm. "I figured it would save us both time. Mom's worried sick." He snapped. "No, she's pissed because she lost her free errand boy." He narrowed his eyes. "Amber's about to pop. We need help. And you're living it up in your own place now. What happened to family?" I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "You happened." For 25 years, you've been the center of everything. And the rest of us, we were just background noise. Well, I turned the volume off. He scoffed. Wow, you really think you're better than us now? No, I said quietly. I just finally think I deserve better. He didn't reply, just walked off muttering something about how I'd regret this one day. I never did. Amber had the baby a week later. A girl. I saw the pictures online. Mom posted them like we were one big happy family. They named her Hope. Ironically, still, I stayed away. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't send a card. And the silence from me must have been deafening. Because suddenly everyone was desperate to pull me back in. Lily texted, "I miss you." They're freaking out. "Please come home." I replied, "Home? I never had one." After that, she stopped trying to dot, and for a while, I was okay with that. I'd wake up in my tiny apartment, make my coffee, and just sit in the quiet. I had picked up more shifts. I enrolled in night classes. I started living, but healing isn't linear. One rainy afternoon, about 2 months after I vanished, I saw my mom standing outside my work, soaked, shivering, eyes bloodshot. Part of me wanted to turn around, just go back inside. But something told me this confrontation was necessary. I walked up slowly. "What are you doing here?" She flinched like she hadn't expected me to speak. "I just wanted to talk." I said nothing. She looked smaller. Then I remembered. "We've been worried. It's not the same without you." "You mean it's not convenient without me?" She winced. "That's not fair, isn't it? You threw me in a garage like trash. You chose Jason's comfort over my dignity." "I didn't mean to. You never meant to, Mom. But you did. Over and over. And I let you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I made mistakes. We all did. Please, just come home." I shook my head. "I am home." She reached for me. But I stepped back. Not in anger, but in peace. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done begging for space in a house that never had room for me." And with that, I walked away. She didn't follow. That night, I cried. Not because I missed them, but because I finally understood something. Sometimes, family isn't blood. It's boundaries. And I was finally building mine. Weeks passed after that rainy encounter with my mother. She never returned to my workplace again. I guess that was her way of giving up, or maybe giving in. Either way, the silence that followed was heavier than I expected. Some nights I'd sit on the floor of my little apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was heartless for cutting them off. But every time I remembered the way they'd toss me aside without hesitation, I knew I wasn't wrong. I was healing. But healing isn't always pretty. You start to remember all the little ways you were made small, the 1,000 quiet betrayals, the way they'd look past you at the dinner table, the way you'd be the one blamed when your sibling threw a tantrum, how you learned to make yourself useful because affection was always earned, never given. And sometimes healing means rage. I thought I was done with them, honestly. But life has a cruel sense of humor. One morning, as I was leaving for class, I got a voicemail. It was Lily. Her voice was shaking. "Evan, I don't know what to do. Mom and Dad are a mess. Jason got arrested. Amber left. Please, can you call me back?" Arrested for a second. I thought I'd misheard. I replayed it 3 times before finally calling her. She answered instantly. "Thank God, Evan. It's bad." I barely recognized her voice. Gone was the indifference, the passive baby of the family tone. She sounded like someone who'd been forced to grow up overnight. Jason had been caught trying to sell prescription pills out of the house. Amber had walked out on him a week earlier, leaving the baby behind. My parents had taken temporary custody of the child, Hope, but were in over their heads. The house was in chaos. CPS had already been called once. I didn't say anything for a long time. Lily broke the silence. "I know you don't owe them anything. Or me. But I just thought you should know." I thanked her for calling and hung up. And then I stared at my phone for a long time, wrestling with everything. Did I go back? Should I? They failed me. Over and over again. But now the child, an innocent child, was in the crossfire. Hope had done nothing wrong. She didn't choose to be born into that circus. I didn't sleep that night. I kept picturing her. Alone. Neglected. Surrounded by the same chaos that had once swallowed me whole. So I made a decision. Not for Jason. Not for my parents. For her. I showed up the next morning. When my mother opened the door, she froze. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her voice cracked when she whispered, "You came." I didn't answer. I just stepped past her. The house was worse than I remembered. Dishes piled in the sink. Amber's things still scattered across the living room. My father sat slumped on the couch, looking like a man defeated. And then I heard a soft cry from the back room, the one that used to be mine. Hope. I walked to the doorway and peeked in. She was in a portable crib, cheeks flushed, little fist curled. The moment our eyes met, she stopped crying. Something shifted in me. I walked over and picked her up. She was warm and light and smelled like powder and desperation. But when she looked at me, she didn't see the forgotten son or the outcast brother. She just saw me. I held her for a long time. My mother stood at the doorway. We're trying, Evan, but we're so lost. I turned toward her. You treated me like I was disposable. You made me feel like I didn't belong in my own home. And now you want what? Forgiveness? Help? She nodded, crying. Yes, both. I know I don't deserve it. For the first time, I believed her. And I also understood something else. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about rewriting a legacy. So I set conditions. I told them if I was going to be involved, it would be my way. I wouldn't be the maid. I wouldn't be the fallback. I'd be Hope's guardian, period. I'd check in. I'd help when I could. But if they slipped back into old patterns, I'd be gone for good. They agreed. And just like that, I re-entered their world, but on my terms. Weeks turned into months. Jason was sentenced to rehab. Amber disappeared entirely. Lily and I grew closer. Turns out, she'd been just as suffocated by the family dysfunction, just in different ways. We started having weekly dinners. Not at the house, but at my place, neutral territory. Hope grew fast. She smiled every time I walked into a room. I wasn't her father, but I was something just as important: her safe space, her constant, her stability. My parents started therapy. They apologized, genuinely. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Sometimes, that's enough to start. One night, while feeding Hope, my mom sat beside me and said quietly, I wish we'd seen you sooner. I didn't look at her. I just said, I was always right there. You just chose not to. She nodded, tears rolling down her face. I didn't hug her, but I didn't walk away, either. And that was progress. Now, I'm 27. Hope is 2 years old and calls me Uncle Ev. My apartment is filled with toys and crayons and picture books. My once empty walls now hold photos of my chosen family. Not perfect, but honest. People sometimes ask if I regret cutting them off that day. If I regret vanishing. The truth, that was the day I saved myself. I had to disappear from their world to finally build my own. And now that I've rebuilt it, they don't get to take it from me again.